right, good morning everyone. All right, good morning Queensland, good morning Brisbane. I've got the Lord Mayor with me today, so I'll be speaking a little bit about the Olympics in a few moments, but first of all we want to give everyone the COVID update because I know Queenslanders want to know how we're going and how we're tracking. So I can report in really good news today. We have 0 new community cases, so well done Queensland. That's an absolutely perfect way to start a Sunday. And we have 1 case that was detected in hotel quarantine. So that's great news, but that's not to say that we don't expect some more cases coming out of that Indooroopilly cluster. So that's wonderful news. 145 active cases. We did 13,341 tests yesterday. And can I please say to Queenslanders, we are not out of the woods yet. So if you have any symptoms, however mild, whatsoever, please go and get a test. That is absolutely critical, and go and get your vaccination when it is due. So good news on the vaccination front as well. The Brisbane Convention Centre was supposed to do 3,000 yesterday. They did 3,002, so that's fantastic. And in total 11,700 vaccines were delivered by Queensland Health yesterday. We still have 6,176 people in home quarantine. A lot of those people will be coming out over the next few days as well. But of course, we want to thank everyone for the tremendous work they did. And I know over the weekend, people have been getting out and about, having spent those 14 days. So thank you for everything that you have done. Okay, now I just want to address the Queensland-New South Wales border. As I said on Friday, I was very concerned about the expansion of the virus going into some parts of regional New South Wales and progressing north. Can I say that when we heard the news on Twitter yesterday, we immediately got together all of our key state agencies and the commissioners here today to address what's been happening down at the border. We worked very hard yesterday late afternoon into the evening to get extra police presence down there. Now, because all of New South Wales is in a lockdown position, there should be very minimal movement over that border, and that extra police presence will ensure that we will do everything we can to keep Queenslanders safe. So this is probably the tightest border controls we've put in place. They're going to be very strict. We are checking people, and of course it is very minimal reason for that movement, and that is only if you're an essential worker, and we'll be checking freight as well. So look, we wish everybody in New South Wales all the very best to get on top of this, and to contain and to restrict the movements of people is what minimises the spread of this virus. In Queensland, we've always acted very hard and very fast, and I think you've seen the results with the Indooroopilly cluster, how quickly everybody responded to that, and I thank them for doing it. A lot of people had to stay in home quarantine, and also too up in Cairns, all the people in Cairns and Yarrabah for responding. But this is a world pandemic. We are going to continue to see cases, and we need to be very vigilant. We need to make sure that if there are any symptoms, we get tested straight away, and that we act as quickly as we possibly can. As Dr. Young said, please make sure that you are continuing to wear your masks. We are hearing some reports down around Gold Coast that people aren't. Can I say, if you're living on the Gold Coast or visiting on the Gold Coast, I would be wearing my mask as much as possible. That border is very close to New South Wales. So please make sure you're doing the right thing, wearing your mask, and please go and get vaccinated. It is important to go and get vaccinated when you possibly can. And of course, we're waiting on more supplies from the federal government, and then we can ramp up that extra vaccine capacity across the state. So I'll hand over to our Deputy Chief Health Officer, James, who's going to just give us a quick update, and the Police Commissioner.
Thank you very much, Premier. So I'm James Smith. So there's been only 1 new case in the last 24 hours, and that was a man in his 20s who's come from Iran via Dubai, and he was detected as he went into hotel quarantine. So that was on day one. So there will be a flight where he was infectious, and the team is working at the moment to gain details about that flight, and those details will be forthcoming when they're available. Otherwise, as the Premier mentioned, we've had no new cases in relation to the Indooroopilly cluster today, which is fantastic. However, also as the Premier mentioned, we're not out of the woods yet. You'll recall we had 6 new cases yesterday, all family members in quarantine, so it was a contained situation. But we will expect that there will be further cases as we move forward. The fact that we've got no new cases today certainly means that it's encouraging and that we're moving in the right direction. Once again, a plug for masks. I know they're frustrating, but they are very important in reducing the spread of coronavirus infections. So Queenslanders are doing a terrific job. We know how quickly this can get out of hand, so please continue to wear them whenever you're outside of your house. Lastly, testing numbers, and there were 13,341 tests done yesterday, so a little bit down. It might have been a weekend effect, but would really remind everyone to please get tested. If you have any symptoms at all, please get tested and remain at home while you await the results. So thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. Queensland Police have significantly ramped up their resources on the border with New South Wales. You will see every vehicle being intercepted coming into Queensland. I ask Queenslanders not to travel into New South Wales, and those coming from New South Wales can only come in if they have an exemption or part of the essential worker group. We spoke to all the mayors across the border with New South Wales late yesterday afternoon to notify them what was happening. As you can appreciate, it did happen very, very quickly, and I thank my police for ramping up quickly to address that issue. I ask that people be patient. There may be queues, but the traffic was quite light last night. In fact, there were only 10-minute waiting period on the M1, but that may increase tomorrow. But every vehicle will be intercepted. Please be patient, please comply, and please work with us. Just a couple of other things. Last night, we did fine hefty fines to 3 nightclubs in the Brisbane area who had been previously warned about non-compliance, and those breaches are $6,892. As I said, very hefty fines. Patrons not wearing masks, too many patrons within the area, and also standing whilst having their drinks. So I ask that all businesses, and most of them are very compliant because we do compliance checks every night and every day, but if you have received a warning, please be compliant, otherwise you will be breached as they were last night. I'll leave it at that, Premier, and open up for questions.
Any questions about COVID and the situation in Queensland?
You mentioned you learned that statewide lockdown news on Twitter. That's a feeling shared by a lot of people in New South Wales at the moment. Are you comfortable and satisfied with the communication coming out of New South Wales?
That's a matter for them, but that's not the way we communicate to the Queensland public.
Are you comfortable with the information being sent to you? Obviously, we share a border. Would you have liked to have seen that handled?
Look, I understand they had to act quickly. I think we just need to wait to see the reasoning today from the New South Wales Premier. That's entirely a matter for them. We have to act on the advice we're given. We had to verify that advice, and we acted as quickly as we possibly could. And as you can see, the police and through the Police Commissioner mobilised incredibly quickly. So I really want to thank our agencies for moving at light speed to enact that stricter measures at the border. Look, in relation, because it is a lockdown of all of New South Wales, we'll put in place some home learning for those students. We just cannot risk at the moment the situation in New South Wales. So it is a tighter border control than has been in the past, and I think people of Queensland would understand that. And as we've seen, it has been transmitted in our schools, the COVID. So it is a stay-at-home order from New South Wales, and people who live in New South Wales need to comply with that order.
So you should continue to push for that border line, so to speak, to drop below the tweed and discuss it.
Look, we tried that. There were discussions, and unfortunately it wasn't progressed in time. So I know they've got a lot of other things to deal with at the moment, but we tried our hardest.
Would Queensland consider sending vaccines to the northern New South Wales suburbs to stop spread?
Look, I'll leave that for the... No, we will actually administer our vaccines. We've seen how we've had a cluster outbreak here in Brisbane, and that could have gone a completely different way. So I need people in Queensland to get vaccinated. So the supply that we have, and this has been all of the conversations from National Cabinet, is that we will continue to get our supplies. And because of that Delta outbreak, we got a brought forward of supply from the federal government. So look, we hope that the federal government can get more supply. Anything else on COVID? Good. Okay, we might bring the Lord Mayor in and we'll talk about all things Olympics, hey? Okay, so it's been 1 week since the Lord Mayor and I finished our 14 days of mandatory hotel quarantine, and we feel all the better for it. But look, can I just say it was wonderful to be over in Tokyo with the Lord Mayor to secure the Olympics for Brisbane and Queensland in 2032. I think people have seen the last, over the 2 week period, where they actually saw what the Olympics means. The athletes I'm incredibly proud of what they have done for Queensland and for Australia. And I want to be out there making sure that our young people have the exact same opportunity. And we know the huge economic benefits that the Olympics will bring. Over 100,000 jobs, $8 billion, and in terms of future tourism opportunities, trade opportunities, it is endless. There is no bigger event. It is the world's biggest event. And as I said, when some people were criticising whether or not we should go, we went there with one aim in mind, and that was to secure this event for Brisbane and for Queensland. And if we hadn't have gone, we may not have got it. So I also want to pay tribute to John Coates. He did a remarkable job. He has been front and centre of this journey, and this is going to be wonderful for our state. I'm told it's 4,000 days until the opening ceremony. So there's a lot of work to do. We've got a lot of time to get that work done. Over 84% of our venues are already complete. So I'm quite sure that the International Olympic Committee saw that very favourably. And the other thing was when we were there and we were announced as the successful host city, the images of Brisbane, South Bank were beamed into that room. And can I tell you, from where I sat, to look around and see every single committee member of the International Olympic Committee standing and clapping and applauding the fact that Brisbane, Queensland had won. I will never forget that for the rest of my life. So a great journey. There's a lot of work to do ahead of us. It's going to transform our city. It's going to make us a world city. And the Lord Mayor and I are going to continue to have monthly meetings. We've formed a very good partnership, and he's one of my favourite mayors now. I can say that in all honesty. And, you know, we've got a big job to do, and we're going to work together to get this job done. And we will be having a big welcome home parade for our Olympians and Paralympians on Friday, the 8th of October. So fingers crossed, the COVID situation will be under control, and Brisbane and Queensland will be able to come out and celebrate our amazing athletes and all the work that they have done. And I think I'll just end on this note, and I'm quite sure that Natalie might be able to correct me here. And I have to do this, I'm a Queenslander. If Queensland was a country, we would have probably come 7th out of all of the countries. So you'd expect me to say that, wouldn't you? All right. Thanks, Lord Mayor.
Oh, well, thank you, Premier. It was actually 1 week ago today that we actually first had the sunlight touching our face after being in quarantine for 2 weeks. And it was an experience, but it was something that has brought the Premier and I closer together in terms of our relationship. There wasn't a day that went by in hotel quarantine when we weren't texting each other, checking up on each other. And that relationship is something we intend on progressing going forward to make sure it benefits Brisbane and Queensland as a state. Amazing things are possible when people work together. Amazing things are possible when two levels of government or three levels of government work together. And that's what we want to achieve on an ongoing basis. We saw the result in Tokyo with Brisbane being named as the host city for 2032. That was a team effort. That was a result of three levels of government working together, the AOC working with us, the community and business behind us, and that was an amazing achievement to get there. But we want to keep it going to make sure that we get the best possible outcome for our community. And cooperation is worth its weight in gold. Relationships are worth their weight in gold. And we intend on keeping in touch on a regular basis, meeting, texting, making sure that we can resolve any issues that come up. To be clear, there will always be points of disagreement. That is the nature of what we do, but having that personal relationship to be able to pick up the phone, have a chat, hopefully sort issues out, and if we choose to disagree, that's fine, but ultimately agreeing, working together is going to be so positive for our city and our state. When it comes to our Olympic athletes, and also we're about to see our Paralympians as well very soon on the 24th of August, they have inspired our community. This is a time when Australia really needed a lift. This is a time when we've been doing it tough through COVID, through the pandemic, and they have provided the inspiration that we needed at a time when we needed it. The 400 plus Olympic athletes have just done us proud. They have achieved things that much bigger countries weren't able to achieve. For our population, our athletes have literally been beating the world. For a population of just 25 million, we have succeeded in winning more medals than much, much bigger countries. Countries that are global powers. Australia is a global sports power. And what we need to do now is make sure that the next generation of athletes are inspired to get involved in sport, because we know we have 2024 Olympics in Paris and we have the 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles before Brisbane 2032. We need to keep the momentum going, and that means the next generation of athletes need to step up, and those people right now will be inspired by the efforts of our athletes in Tokyo. So it's fitting that we're going to welcome them with a parade here on the 8th of October. We'll also present them with the keys to the city. They have done our city proud, these local athletes, and they deserve that honour. It's the highest honour the city can provide to anyone, and they have well and truly earned it. The timing of this parade is obviously designed to make sure that we can limit the risks of further COVID or pandemic impacts. One thing that we know is that every week that goes by, more people are getting vaccinated. And as more people get vaccinated, the risks in terms of the pandemic get lower and lower each week. And so October, while it's a little way away, gives us more chance to be in a better position when it comes to the pandemic, so that we can get more people out and celebrating the achievements of our athletes and our Paralympians as well. I would encourage people that are missing the Olympic activity and the Olympic vibe to tune into the Paralympics. It starts on the 24th of August. It starts on the 24th of August and goes through to the 5th of September. You are going to be inspired by our Paralympians in the way that you were inspired by our Olympians. Happy to take any questions that you may have. No questions?
That's right. Landmarks for the
Well, look, it's great to see the level of excitement that's out there in the community about the opportunities that the Olympics will bring to Brisbane and Queensland. And so there's going to be a lot of discussions about what this means and how we can capitalise on it. I think it's actually really healthy to be having those discussions. Discussions about landmarks, for my 2 cents worth, I think they need to be functional. They need to be an asset for the community on an ongoing basis. We don't want to create any white elephants here. We want to make sure that anything that we're building has a purpose for our community. And so that can be done with clever design. That can be done by thinking outside the box. And so that if we're building something that our community needs, let's make it spectacular. Let's make it something that will become a tourist attraction. Let's make it Instagrammable. Let's make it as a beacon for Brisbane and for Queensland.
Could a pineapple mascot also be in those discussions?
Oh look, I know there's a race for mascots at the moment. That's a matter for down the track a little bit. There's a lot to be planning and there's a lot to be talking about. But I just think this is all a sign of the excitement that people have for the opportunity for Brisbane and Queensland.
Can I just get Natalie to say a few words too? Thanks,
Thank you, Premier and Lord Mayor. Can I say congratulations to you both? And whilst you haven't come home with an Olympic medal, you've come home with the Olympic rings for our city and our state. So that's just as exciting for us Olympians and Paralympians and our whole state to know that Brisbane will be forever an Olympic city. So I thank you. I know what Olympic missions do to people, and it's made you closer. You go through ups and downs as teams, and some come home with medals and some don't. Our athletes are sitting in quarantine right now, so they're going through what you've been through, and we have a very big program at the Australian Olympic Committee to help them through. So by the time they come out, staggered, of course. I think our Howard Springs swimmers are out very soon, and our last Olympians will be out just in time for the Paralympics. We are all waiting for the Paralympics because that Olympic and athlete fever has been very hard for this week to not be able to get up and watch our athletes on TV. So look out for our Paralympic swimmers, Ali Cole, Rachel Watson, Brendan Hall, our wheelchair basketballers, Chris Bond, our athletes, Jared Gosens, our blind triathlete. We have some amazing Queensland athletes. So the 485 athletes that went from Australia, of them 127 Queenslanders. They've done us so proud, as the Premier said. We would be 7th on the medal tally as Queenslanders, and Emma McKeon in the top 20 on her own. She is the new GOAT of the Olympics. She has overtaken Ian Thorpe and Liesl Jones as the most number of Olympics medals, and she's still going. So look out for Emma in Paris. The most exciting thing, as we know about an Olympics coming to our city and our state, is the next generation. And the Queensland Academy of Sport is very keen to go into regional Queensland and unearth the next lot of talent. We have a 1-year-old out there right now that may win a skateboard gold medal. So don't think that there are age caps. We have 15, 16-year-old volleyballers that will go into their prime by the time 2032 comes. The sparkle in their eyes is something we are very excited about, but it's not just our young people we are asking to dream big. It is all Queenslanders. It is the Queensland government, it is the Lord Mayor and the city of what can we have Brisbane and Queensland look like to the rest of the world by the time 2032 comes along. Don't be fooled thinking 11 years is a long way away. It is not. There are only 2 Olympics before our turn, and Paralympics. So we have to get started now. And we know everyone's talking about mascots, we know everyone's talking about landmarks, we know everyone's talking about venues. But can I encourage you to dream big for your life and what that means, what your Olympic dream is. And come down on October 8th to celebrate our Olympians and Paralympians. The reason it is so far away, or might seem far away, is because we have to wait for our Paralympians to come out of quarantine as well. So join us on October 8th to celebrate all of the amazing performances on and off the fields, and we are so very proud of all of our athletes, especially Taliqua Clancy, our Indigenous beach volleyball player, who's taken the first medal with Maria Fay since 21 years. So we've had 16 Indigenous athletes go to this Olympics, 8 of them brand new for the first time. So dream big, dare to dream the impossible, and let's make Brisbane and Queensland the best Olympics ever.
Premier, how can the Queensland government be helping fostering that next generation of locals?
We'll be talking about that over the coming weeks and months. We've got a lot of plans in place, but we want to be out there across Queensland searching for those young athletes that have incredible potential. And I just know that one of the things that the IOC loved about Queensland's bid was our love of sport. And I know I was just talking to a construction worker the other day, and he told me that his children are so excited by the Olympics that they want to be Olympians in 2032. And I'm quite sure there's a lot of boys and girls sitting out there now in their lounge rooms watching the news tonight that'll say, I want to be an Olympian and I want to dream that dream. So in Queensland, anything is possible.
Premier, on a separate issue, is the government seriously considering a law for rogue magpies to be shot?
No, not to my knowledge, no. Okay, anything else? No? Good. Thanks, everyone.